Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 397, and today we're doing battle with Vayne Jarvan. And so Vayne Jarvan's a deck that was popularized by Infinity Patrons. He hit rank 1 on the Eternal ladder with this deck, had a lot of success there, and then also I'm pretty sure he just top cut the Runeterra Open last weekend with this deck. I think he had something absurd like an 80% win rate with this across the day one of the Open. And so it's a very powerful deck. It has a lot of the similarities that you see out of playing decks like Jax Ornn, to where we have the Forge package with the Weaponsmith's Apprentice and the Hearthblood Menders. We have these reasonable improvised units with the Innovative Blacksmith and the Combat Cook. And so we're able to come out and generate some of these very big equipment. And then the kind of upside to that being as your smaller units die, you weren't really invested in the unit as much as you were in the equipment. And so as the game progresses, your opponent plays their removal spells, you don't really care that your Weaponsmith's Apprentice died because it has that 6+6+7 stat equipment on it. Then you just put that good equipment on something else. But this one does have quite a few differences from the gameplay of Jax Ornn. It doesn't get those really high-powered plays that you get out of Ornn. So you say play Ornn, you copy a scout equipment, and then you have this big 10/10 scouty unit that also generates a ram. It's not able to go that powerful and that big, but it does get a lot of interesting interactions out of Vayne, the equipment package, and the Darkened Aegiuses and the Spears. And then the big one to me is going to be the Night Ranger Defector, or the Ranger Knight Defector, whatever whatever we're calling old Sister Christian these days. But to me, the Ranger Knight Defector is what is the real big differentiator here, and is what makes this deck exceptionally strong. And so as you put this big scout unit on the board, you slap an equipment on it, then you forge the equipment a few times. Very reasonable to be attacking your opponent with an 8/8 and 9/9 scout unit. But then it gets even better with the usage of Vayne and the usage of Cataclysm. If you're not familiar with some of these combos, if it's your opponent's turn and you tumble a Night Ranger Defector, or you Cataclysm a Night Ranger Defector, that counts as a scout attack. So then you get a rally, you're able to start attacking again. And so as we made mention to things like Jax Ornn, that deck is looking to really make its high-powered plays with Overwhelms. This deck is able to get some big plays together with the scouts. And so to me, that's the main differentiator. And so the thing that I like to bring to the table that I haven't seen other people doing is the usage of Inner Beast. And so this is typically a card that's going to be Troll Chant. Everyone that I've seen taking this deck has been using Troll Chant. The ABG Always Be Gaming guy that won the event this past week is a big proponent of the Troll Chant, but I like Inner Beast for a few reasons. The thing with this is I don't feel like there's a lot of situations in these formats to where you're actually getting 2-for-1s off of Troll Chant, and so it's not super compelling in that sense, right? Troll Chant really shines in these spaces as to where you play a 2-drop on 2, a 2-drop on turn 3, you attack, and then your opponent tries to trade with both of your units, but you get the Troll Chant. Those situations just don't arrive very often. The other thing that you get out of Inner Beast is it does give the bonus attack, so while Troll Chant can help you not lose combats, it doesn't help you win them. Inner Beast lets you actually win those combats, giving you the plus attack. But to me, the big thing coming out of Inner Beast is the generation of the stance swaps. And so we on our channel played a ton of Udyr Jarvan a season or two ago. Has a lot of the same cards and ideas with the cataclysms and the like, but the thing that's very nice with that stance swap is you can say put Overwhelm onto a Ranger Knight Defector and start closing out games. That way, you can put Overwhelm onto Jarvan and then Cataclysm Jarvan into another unit, look to get in for a bunch of Overwhelm damage. Just lots of really interesting and strong plays that come out of that stance swap. It'll also let you do stuff like make the AoE stance to kill off a bunch of opposing units, or put the Regenerate stance onto a unit that you need to have stick around for a little bit. And so lots of interesting things coming out of that. Last thing I like to make mention of with this deck is I'm a huge fan of Tough in this current format. There's a lot of decks like Annie Katarina and a lot of Bilgewater-based removal decks that can only deal a single point of damage. So if your opponent's trying to kill your units with pokey sticks or group shots or pastry tosses or things like Blade's Edge, all of those 1 damage removals are ineffective against Tough. And then even the 2 damage removals take a lot of work. If your opponent isn't working with a Disintegrate, they set up some kind of combat to where they try to say double Mystic Shot your unit. Having these Toughs really lets those or makes those situations challenging to pull off. And so I really like the fact that this deck has the Steadfast Elkins, the Ranger Knight Defectors, along with the single copy of Dark and Aegis to give us those tough bonuses to combat the very common removal that runs through this format. And so that's the deck. I'm ready for battle. Hope you are too. Let's go ahead, jump on in. See if we can't get a good game or two today. All right, starting things off with a little Samira Seraphine. See how it goes. All right, and a somewhat reasonable start. This would feel a lot better if we actually had a equipment in it. I'm at odds here with this hand just being a little bit too slow, but I think we're kind of just stuck running with this. We can at least make one of these plays to where we start off with the Elkin, and then follow up with these Weaponsmith's Apprentices, even better with the Artisan. Just, I'd like to kind of, soak up some removal here in the early game if we can, and these units aren't that strong at protecting themselves. Oh, hang on, we picked up the Artisan.
There are stories in the ringing of steel.
All right, no damages for the turn, I'm going to assume, but not that bad. And then we'll get this really high-powered Combat Cook 2 turns from now. We could look to maybe play the Dark and Aegis a little bit early. If we want to spread the love across our units a little bit, we could look to play the Weaponsmith's Apprentice on this next turn and then the Darkened Spear, but I think I'm kind of okay with just going really big with the Combat Cook.
Once long ago, he stoked a fire beneath the mountain.
Hertha, please tell us a story.
The spirit of the mountain was working.
He's ready.
as forge.
Seraphine comes in, sure. So really looking to hit Scout or Overwhelm, one of the big time equipments off of this Combat Cook. Definitely want to get him on board though. I feel so scary, just expecting big things out of these Weaponsmith's Apprentices and then having them get popped with Mystic Shots. But this is the kind of exact thing I'm talking about in terms of what we're trying to get out of our units. The Combat Cook isn't a particularly strong unit. This isn't a compelling bro. He's just a 2/2, but as he comes down onto the board and gets killed off, since our opponent needs to handle our big 7/5 Overwhelm unit, getting that equipment onto another unit, very powerful. I am a little worried this game. We've gone pretty slow this game in the sense that we haven't got any damage in for the most part. Only have our singular unit, which is kind of scary against this deck, but I think this is okay here in the sense that we can add Vayne, have that be kind of a bait play. Maybe opponent will try and run something into her. Looks like they aren't taking the bait, and so let's go ahead and try and get this this Combat Cook hit into the Seraphine. So if he has to come in, make a Disintegrate play on our unit, that's fine, right? We weren't that interested in the Combat Cook as much as the equipment that's already in hand. Just go ahead and take the point of damage. Not that big of a deal, and it's going to heal it back anyways. But we do have them ground down to 3 cards at this point, so that's kind of nice. Hearthblood Mender coming in. He's not going to be primed and ready to go for this one. So I'm looking to just put the Fish-a-Whack down onto one unit. We'll play the Darkened Spear, and then we'll probably find ourselves looking to go with the Fish Fight. Rip Vayne. Do we want to just lead off with this Fish Fight? Like, we don't have to return the equipment to hand. Let's do it. Should be pretty tough to kill this Weaponsmith's Apprentice. He's going to need another Disintegrate plus a removal spell. Having already played one Disintegrate with only 3 cards in hand, it's kind of tough to pull off.
Now you're about to hear me.
With them Seraphine flips, though, we got to be worried. Got to be worried about that.
Here, let me see that.
Is he just going to Aftershock the Apprentice? Okay, that could have gone worse. So go ahead and get some combats in. I'm not super happy that we actually just played that equipment. I kind of like the space of tumbling off this Hearthblood Mender next turn, but I think this is still okay.
Stand with me by the light as my
Let's spread the stats out here a little bit, though. I don't want to be stacked on one unit here. And a jury rig. Sure. And so this tumble's looking pretty strong, right? He's only got one card in hand. Needs to stop a lot of these overwhelms. And oh, interesting pickup with the defector. If you're not familiar with what we can do here, we make our normal attack, right? This is just a standard attack. The attack token has been spent, but we can play the Ranger Knight, tumble it. That counts as our scout attack. We get the attack token back, and then we can attack with all of our friends here. And so very high-powered turn that we're about to get this round, even if he has some kind of interactivity for the Mender. And if he does have a Disintegrate play or something for the Mender, and we get the equipment back in hand, then we can just tumble the equipment back onto the Defector. All right, I always got to worry about this nonsense, though. See this dumbass deck play Seraphine and then just start chaining off a bunch of spells. It's certainly not over till it's over. I've learned my lessons as far as as far as the Seraphine deck is concerned, and thinking that you've actually won the game.
I excel at making heads turn.
So we
and roll.
currently can't do anything on the on this board, right? If we want to tumble the Ranger, well, we can do stuff. Hang on, I'm speaking crazy talk. I was looking at the 10 health smashing into the Plaza Guardian, but after the tumble, the Plaza Guardian will only have 1 health, and then our Mender will work. Are you kidding me? Okay. I knew that was what we should have been playing around. We should have been playing around the Encore generating a silence to stop our Scout tumble. Makes sense. Makes sense. We should have known better. Ah, fucking absurd. All right, Plaza Guardian in. Do we want to? I'm kind of interested in dropping a fish fight onto the Plaza Guardian, but then we can't block any of them, right? And so as it stands right now, if he wants to attack into our Mender, he needs to say like Flare Samira, hook the Mender into combat, and then hit with the other 2. But if we take it a little slow here, we had a chance to stop the attacks. I think he's not taking the bait. He's not attacking into our into our 10-9. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty surprised about that. Okay. All right, let's see what nonsense we can run into this round. I think this open attack is appropriate. The problem with the open is if he has an answer to the Hearthblood Mender, he can just block both of our units and not have any trouble. The other problem, though, is if he picks up a Blood for Blood or an Iterative Improvement and gets his big unit on the board, then we can't get the lethal through the Hearthblood Mender anyways. So I think the open is just safer as opposed to giving him a chance to put a unit on board, right? The chances of him having some kind of bullshit generated card are that's going to stop our attack are just much lower than his ability to just naturally put those Plaza Guardians into play. Silence. What a bunch of nonsense. Alright, next battle though. What was this? Was that Ziggs? I saw Lux. Okay, it's Jayce Lux, but I don't know where I got Ziggs from that interaction. I thought I saw it turn up. Ziggs in our deck? He has some kind of KDA board? I don't know, man. I'm getting lost. But here, I'm going to start with the Elkin. I'm just planning on open attacking. I would love to see opponent drop a spell on it so that we know that we're kind of out of Shock Blast range for the next turn. But this is okay here. We don't have to worry about the 6-mana spell coming down now that the Broadwing is hit. We can look to boost up one of our units with the Forge. So what do we got? Don't want Shepherd's Authority. It just feels like it's never appropriate to take the Shepherd's Authority, so we'll let that one go. Why I thought of attacking with the Forge Worker. It's interesting. So here I think we want to take it a little bit slow with our Ranger Knight Defector. I'd like to get kind of an equipment ready for it and see if that kind of thing's going to present itself. And so went with the Scout Rake. This is going to be a good equipment with the Hearthblood Mender in turn, but it's not as good, you know, putting Scout on a unit that already has Scouts. Not that special. So we're going to make this attack. Going to drop the Rake onto our Weaponsmith's Apprentice, and now we'll see if he open attacks. Like, as he adds this Mage Seeker Persuader onto the board, I feel like he probably doesn't want to open. And it's just going to kind of depend on the spell. If he has a Shock Blast, this doesn't feel nearly as good. But if we do get to drop the Forge onto the Weaponsmith's Apprentice, that feels like a big win. We can also... trying to think if we want to try and, say, pop this equipment back into hand. It takes quite a bit of work to do that, but there's some options there. Right, if we want to, say, put the upcycled Rake onto the Blacksmith so that we can then put the Blacksmith equipment onto the Defector. It's a little bit too expensive to pull all that off right now. Alright, not the strongest attack. He's going to put the Broadwing in front of the 7/6 most certainly. But this does get us to more of a point to where we can start building up to the Ranger and the Vayne. Ideally, I'm looking to play a Tumble next turn. See how much mana they spend here. If they're going to play a Jayce or a Lux or something, we might need to pick up Cataclysm mana instead. Let's see. Oh, he did the work for us. I appreciate that. that was very kind of you, sir. Very kind. Huh. Well, I'm curious why he would do that, like, right now. That's very strange. So he Hexbliterates the unit, but it's not enough to actually get the kill onto it, so we don't lose our equipment. You're weirding me out, bro. You're weirding me out. I think I'm still fine with this. Trying to take the Lux off of the board. We get the rally. The equipment's going to come back into hand. I assume he's going to Final Spark down onto the Mender, but we still get another attack this turn, and we can do something like play Vayne with an equipment on her to really get the ball rolling here. Let's see, he's got his Challenger Bro, though. Let's pick up the Amulet. Say having the Fearsome would be relevant if he's not going to be attacking this turn. But it seems fine. It's down to 2 cards. We still have 2 really high-powered equipment in hand, and then we can say, LOL, it's a Naka. Right? That's one of my favorite plays to be making in here. So let's go ahead and bring him in. We have 2 options with the Naka, right? We can Cataclysm. That counts as an attack that does the dark and attacky thing, or we can just put the Scout Rake on him and get attacks that way. It's going to depend on what opponent plays here. I'm pretty okay with just taking down Jayce. Like, if it all comes down to it, we can still make tumble plays next turn, and so if we end up losing our Anaka here, it's not the end of the world. So it's going to take him more removal spells to pull that kind of thing off. Nothing? All right, Weaponsmith's Apprentice. You get that damage in. you're not getting blocked while the 3 toughness Darkens attacking into a 3/3. All right, good stuff. Good stuff.
The mind is nothing without means.
Albus Pharos, always a little scary.
Demons walk among us, masquerading.
We just gotta get one attack in though.
Money matters.
Alright, let's send in this big one. It should be pretty safe, right? There's no removal spells really capable of taking down the Defector here. And then, even if he does, he has to do a bunch of work and still probably can't stop our follow-up attack. Okay, GG. Feels good to play a Darken, man. It's been a while. I haven't been playing too many Darken in the Lands of Eternal, but I love how they're so good early and so good late. Like playing it on turn 2 on a Weaponsmith's Apprentice isn't the worst thing that you can be doing, and then having it convert into a just game-ending dude in the late game. Pretty cool stuff. All right, on to the next one though. Up against the Fearsomes. Reasonable enough start here with the double Apprentice into the Blacksmith. We're on the even attacks, and so we do dodge quite a bit of the opponent's power, right? If it's on turn 4 and they want to add a Wraith Collar to the board, they can't actually use it until turn 5.
Kindle
So
for me. That's why Smith
seems reasonable. I am going to just go ahead and take the open here, though. We're not going to get into combat with Mist Wraiths or Arachnoid Sentries or whatnot.
Kindle.
Arachnoid Horror. Same thing. Same guy, right? Alright, ready to block. I think leaning towards the Fearsome 5000 here. It gives us that ability to still attack and then block on the comeback, and so I think that's fine. The thing that we'll be looking towards here this game is the Bellows Breath, and so that's why I was a little hesitant to not take the combat reel. Just having that extra mana for the Bellows Breath to let us get the clear across all these Mist Wraiths, but there's also an argument to wanting to hold on to the Bellows Breath until the opponent plays a Harrowing. And so sometimes you're in the spot to where you just have to do it, right? You have to say, oh, fuck, you got the big aggressive board. I have to throw something down in front of it. But ideally, this will be kind of our safety valve against the Harrowing. Reasonable enough stuff happening here. Not too worried about Kalista. We have a Cataclysm for her this turn. These gigantic units really throw a wrench into the Mist Wraith plan, so all works for me. Let's go ahead and get rid of this Kalista. I don't want to run into a problem to where opponent soul cleaves and then has something else and she actually gets to flip. Like if we kill this Kalista and then he plays another Kalista, by all means that's fine. But Soul Cleave is a real problem there with her still sitting on the board. Now it's kind of interesting if we even want to play these other units. We can bank up just a little bit and make some Cataclysm and Tumble plays and try and flip this Vayne. Like, we can't block these units anyways, right? Or is Vayne even that important? Like, taking 10 kinda sucks. The Boisterous Host. I think we probably just have to block here. Right? With the strength of our equipment and everything, I have to imagine that we're in one of those as long as we don't lose, we'll win kind of spots. Especially as like all of his power is really tied into the mist wraiths, and we have the clear for those. So what do we got with the blacksmith? With either one that we take, we can still block a fearsome, but we're just going to die to all the fearsomes anyways, so let's just pick up Fishawhack. Like, if he could play an Arachnoid Sentry and make us feel a little bad about it, but I think this is okay. Send in the fun squad. Can't imagine he's going to want to get too invested with these units and throw his Kalista away, and so I'm just kind of looking at, we'll take the tumble to get the equip, we'll make an attack, see if he wants to block, and then we'll probably just fish fight this Kalista down at the end of the day. This last card, well, I was going to say this last card has to be the Harrowing, but he wouldn't be playing the Mist Wraith if he had the Harrowing in hand. He would be taking the 3-bank into turn 7. Alright, let's get this nonsense out of here.
It's nice. Could be nicer.
Opponent says that's enough, bust, GG. On to the next one. Collecting all the LPs. We're getting close to 1,000. That's kind of my goal for the season, is I'd like to hit 1,000 before the season ends. I'm not entirely certain when the season ends. Like my kind of the video creation game plan was we'll do the open this upcoming weekend. That's a couple of days from now, and then it's kind of an interesting hand. I'm leaning towards doing something like this, where we keep the spear and the blacksmith, but we don't have any units to go with the spear, and so we might just be holding on to it for a long time. And it's also one of these spots with the spear to where it kind of sucks to equip it and then just have your unit get popped. And so I think if we had like one of the cheap tough units, the Steadfast Elkin, then I'd be okay with the spear, but without it, I didn't want to keep. But no, in terms of the next few days, I'm looking to do the open tournament this weekend, and then I was kind of planning on switching back over to standard. Right, there's not a lot of excitement out and about in terms of Eternal for 3 months, and so get ourselves kind of prepped back into that standard mindset again, since we haven't played standard in a month. But we'll see if it comes down to kind of grinding it out and trying to get those, trying to get that 1,000 LP. Then I might focus on that a little bit. But all right, back to the game at hand. This is what I was talking about, playing against the likes of decks like Annie Katarina, to where they play group shots, they play pokey sticks, they play Blade's Edge. They have a lot of ways to deal a single point of damage, and it makes these tough units so incredibly strong, right? Their removal just doesn't work against these. They either have to do stuff like play Conchologist and generate a spell that does more than 1 damage, like a Drop the Bomb, or they have to look more towards playing Tybalak off to the Ravenbloom Conservatory, and then using that as a way to have that extra power onto the spells. Interesting. So I mean, he's just going to have a Disintegrate. I think that's okay. Like, putting the Fishawhack onto the Defector doesn't sound that compelling. I'm actually pretty excited about just playing the second Defector and getting multiple Ranger Knight attacks in. But that's fine. We got flocked. How many portals are we dealing with here? 0 now? It Maddle Babs. You did notice that on his cycle, he lost out on a.
Go away.
He Disintegrate. Yeah, he lost out on a Lord Broadmane. So it's always nice to see those guys go away as we're trying to go tall. We've been getting really zinged by these by these disintegrates and the like, though. Our toughs aren't making us nearly as tough as we want to be.
Off we go. Portals everywhere.
Alright, so he's got that Katarina flip. She's going to be able to keep doing her thing. Nothing that we could have really done about her. We could have looked to have played differently last turn and tried to hit her with a fish fight, but I'm not particularly scared of her at the moment. We probably should be, but I'm not. I'm not as it stands. So I'm looking to add in Vayne. We'll add in the Elkin and see if we can't push along next turn. It's going to keep going for it, huh? What if we do this? Let's enter Beast our Elkin and then drop the fish fight on Katarina in that direction. I ultimately worry about using Vayne and then having her get hit with like this free Blade's Edge plus a Disintegrate or something, and so we'll just take care of that problem while we can. Damage to face, and then he'll get Tybalak in hand next turn. Not looking awesome. Not looking awesome. Just a little bit too slow out this game. Quite the collection of portals.
Better get the forge going.
So I'm wanting to put the Apprentice on board. I'm going to play the Combat Cook after and see if we can't find Scout. Like, that's the only way that I'm really envisioning that we can win this game, is if we hit the Scout on the next turn and we can make tumble plays with it. Didn't come together. We can look to spend the 8 mana on the Darken and then tumble it next turn. It's not amazing, but it's an angle we could take. I don't think it's ultimately going to be worth it. Just sucks so much, like our turn being, watch me send in the Combat Cook to trade with your random 4/2 or trade with your Babs. It's not getting anything else happening.
If we hesitate, we die.
Come and get it!
Okay. This Nora's been going unhinged this game. Haven't done anything to stop her. I wonder, it's kind of interesting in the sense that if we actually like trade out our Combat Cook and pick up the Scout Rake in hand, we do get the opportunity to then tumble the quick attack onto our unit. Like, I don't feel particularly safe here given how much opponent just threw away, but I think like we have 2 choices for the turn, right? Do we want to do the Darkened Spear, or do we want to do the Ranger Knight Defector? Maybe the Defector is okay. And this is one of these spots to where you could start to think about putting Overwhelm onto your units, right? If we want to put Overwhelm onto the Defector and try to get multiple attacks in that way. It sounds a little greedy to me, but this is one of those reasons that I do like having access to the Rake. Yeah, you're just going to be dead, aren't you? Just going to be dead. We still got to give it a shot. We still got to go for it, but let's see what happens. Okay. GG. Just not quite there. It's tough when you get all the tough units on board, but then your opponent just spikes all the units that they need to get the blocks, and so it's kind of a bummer when you see them portal into anything, I guess. Just literally anything with the portals, I guess. But on to the next one. Up against, what was that? Yasuo Swain? Interesting. Not Yasuo Katarina. Maybe he's trying to make the most out of those pirouettes. All right, we got all the equipment bros in hand. Just need an equipment now. I think it's pretty reasonable to add the artisan and just attack this next turn. There's not too many units opponent can have here that I'm gonna be afraid of. Like the only 2-drop I really suspect is gonna be more Shimon Winds, or it might be a Blade Twirler. You're wet, sure. Interesting. Strikes me as a little aggressive with the spell. No equipments to be found, though. Alright, Shimon Wind, do your thing. Stun and or recall number 3. We're just gonna send in the little bros, though, right? You say, look out! Here comes my ragtag crew of small units, the utility squad coming through.
He stoked a fire beneath the mountain.
All right, combat cook. You got a little more size to you.
Fighting food and cooking evil. No, switch those.
All right, Yasuo, we're ready for battle. If you want to drop your Yasuo, we're swinging everybody still. Okay, I don't think we want to forge just yet. We can save this for a later turn. If we pick up another equipment or something, just getting in the 1 point of damage this turn doesn't feel worthwhile. And then the thing to kind of keep in your head here is we're gonna be opening with Jarvan next turn. And so, if we want to be playing any of these tricks next turn, we need to store up a little bit of mana.
Always by my side.
Try and get this dum-dum out of here. Oof. That's gonna hurt. I'll let you know that's gonna hurt next turn. as we're opening with Jarvan and just having him blast right through. So I like it. Let's put the amulet on our weakest unit. Then we'll open next turn. Keep that 2 mana back for the inner beast. Come and get it. Aggro utility units coming through. Looks like he's got a couple of answers here. It's not that big of a deal. This is kind of one of these spots to where he's spending all this mana to not die, but he's not really building up his board in terms of winning positions with Yasuo. Ooh, Cataclysm. I was thinking in my head, it's like, should we have played the Inner Beast on the previous turn as a way to just ensure that we have like that 1 point of damage last turn, but then also have a stance swap in hand this turn.
Venom sure does. Get him.
We can kind of still work our way there with Vayne. No, that's too expensive, isn't it? I think this is still okay. Let's be realistic about this. That wasn't very kind. So what do we think about just go ahead and putting an overwhelm onto a unit anyways? I guess it's ultimately probably too dangerous against Yasuo and all of their stuns. It's a lot more tempting to say, like, what if we put the overwhelm stance onto Combat Cook? Just our worst unit to spread out the damage a little bit. I'm not opposed to that. Yeah. Let's see how much more mana he spends here. It's like, right, if we put like the Forge onto Apprentice and then give it Overwhelm, and then he comes at us with just a simple stun. It leaves us in such a bad spot. All right. Well, we dodged all the pirouettes. I think we're good to just open here, and then we can try and finish things off with a post-combat spell.
More combs.
Right, as it is, if he wants to block our 3 big units, he has to start casting spells down here on our smaller units. And so I think at the end of the day, once he starts to spend his mana, we'll find a place to get a tumble or get a cataclysm for the win. Rip Jarvan though. I guess we could have put a Forge onto Jarvan, but then opponent could have just swapped some blocks around there. Not bad though, not bad.
Work is never done.
Next battle. Right, Viktor Aphelios rolling through. Hate those dumb units. That's the proper way to approach this matchup. Just get upset about the units. All right, well, got an early elk in this game, but we mulliganed away our equipment. All right, there's an Aegis. Not the Elkin's not the premier target for a Darkin Aegis, but I still want to run him out. If he gets to soak up a Mystic shot, then that's fine. You've done your work, my friend. But if we can push ourselves into this next turn and drop Vayne and then put the Darkin Aegis onto Vayne, use that to start activating the Tufts, feel a little bit better about that. He's gonna be clever. Are we being clever today? Is that what's happening? Alright. Well, let's not run our Vayne directly into an Aftershock. I'll pass on that game plan. So ideally what we would see here is, Aftershock's a 3-cost spell, or if you want to play a Piltover Telstones into Aftershock, it's 4. Or if you have a Get Excited, that's 3. But if we're just going to choose to kind of not play around Get Excited, then I was looking to have him spend some mana, we play Vayne, then we get to open here, and we can open with a Darkin Aegis, but opponent didn't agree with all of that nonsense that we wanted to pull off, and so gotta take it just a little bit slow, I guess. Totes my goats, all the goats. Oh, at least to me, the big thing for the turns, he isn't playing Viktor here, so that feels like a bonus. His blocks aren't any good out here. And then we might have a Mender play next turn to boost up one of these equipments on board. Sure. It's going to be a double Pale Cascade? Holy shit. Alright, this is fine. Take that big mana bank. I want to be able to Fish Fighter Cataclysm this turn. We're pretty all in on this Elkin at this point, and so if he drops a Viktor, I want to be able to get a tacky onto him. We'll play Vayne eventually. Sometime in 2023, Vayne will hit the board and bless us with some tumbles. But as this stands, I don't expect too much out of the opponent this turn. If he wants to add something to the board, then fine. If he wants to load up the Mountain Goat with gems, that's a little scarier. But ideally, we'll find ourselves going into this next turn and then being able to play Jaral and get some good hooks in. But there is a pretty compelling argument to double gem the Mountain Goat, get the bonuses onto Ballistic Bot, and try and scare us that way.
Spilled paint is just accidental art.
He's throwing away his gems, though. That's not going to do what you want. all the stats are on the Forge. The stats aren't on the Elkin itself. Lost is tough though. Maybe that's what opponent was going for. So your Elkin will not be tough today. he's not gonna feel good about his strength. Alright, well, ultimately still fairly worried about this mountain goat combat. I mean, it can't be that bad, right? Can't be. Famous last words. But, I mean, these attacks all look good. He's gonna need, like, if he's, like, blocking and trading and then playing burn spells, I think it's fine. Like, I feel at least a little bit better in this space about starting to drop our removals, right? It's so important to be able to kill Aphelios or to kill Viktor that I don't want to be burning these removals on little dum-dums like mountain goats. But now that we've got 4 removal spells in hand, we can be a little more aggressive in the targets that we choose. Other thing to kind of watch out for is, you know, we might need to get this Anaka on board, and so fish fighting the Darkened Spear back to hand isn't terrible.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty sparkle fly.
Alright, that's a more reasonable target for your Equinox. That is going to do what you want. We take in here. I like the Sandsworn Amulets in these spaces. Really limits his ability to block since some of these units are pretty turdy.
The brighter my light, the stronger.
Now, we want to take Aphelios down. I'm going to just fish fight, but I'm going to use our 6/5. I don't want to fish fight off of this Elkin and then have opponent have a get excited. And so we'll probably find ourselves playing the second fish fight this turn just to get the Anaka back in hand. But we'll see. We'll see. Oh, gotta push the button. I was sitting here waiting. I was like, what are you taking so long for, my dude? That's my bad. That was me. What are we thinking here, friend? I'm ready to fish fight, so... I keep trying to envision when we're ever going to play this Vayne. Like, just haven't done it up to this point, but... Sure, I feel much safer now. I'm just looking at this as we can... say, here we're going to say fish fight. We'll take down the ballistic bot. Limit his ability to get these discardable things. Then we'll have a 3-bank into next turn. We can play Anaka. We can Cataclysm into something if we want. Sure. And then kind of see where we stand. Just it's a little safer to play the Cataclysm first, right? So if we just make a normal attack and he blocks with the 4/3, then like as we go to Cataclysm the next time, it makes it a little bit easier for him to be like, oh well, I can play a removal spell before you get to attack. But I don't know about these removals.
As my ancestors before me.
Let's just take it slow. I feel like if this the way that this is kind of grinding on, we're just safe. Right, here's the block onto Anaka, that's fine. If he has a Thermogenic Beam, I think that's the only answer, unless he's going to play 2 removals here instead of 1. Moon Boy comes in. Alright, we should be safe. Yeah, give Give me them bonus attacks. These are the things I miss from the days of playing Udyr Jarvan. Say, give me some of these cataclysms. Feels good. Feels good. So he had the means to take down the Anaka, but that was a pretty big investment, and now we can.
Only a fool would enter battle.
We unfortunately don't have Overwhelm, but we can. I think this is it. I think this is the time. We're finally gonna put Vayne on the board. So it took a long time to get there, but I think we've accomplished it. Okay.
Monsters still lurk in Demasia's every shadow.
Kindle, did you wander off again?
Alright, so let's take the tumble. The Fearsome means he can't block with the Duskbringer, so he's gonna have to block with the Prodigy. And we're getting there. We're getting there. I am worried a little bit about whatever big card that he just invoked, right? He did the invoke heal for an expensive. We're at least pretty spread out in terms of our card quality, though, right? If you want to Supernova to kill off the two big boys, we do lose our equipment, but we still have Vayne. And then if he's picked up a the 3 cost A or the 3 attack AoE, it just doesn't really do anything. So that's fine. And then if he picked a big unit, we're just winning the game outright. So good stuff.
Hammer, tongs, anvil.
Full of pain.
Pot full of pain, my dude. Here comes the squad.
You leave me no recourse.
Got him. GG. Okay, so some of these games have gone a little bit long. We typically do 8 games. We're just going to do 7 today. I feel like that's a good number. We're at the 51-minute mark, and so I don't think we'll have the time for 2. Hey, we're at 777. I hit 666 LP yesterday. Now we're hitting the triples again with 777. Planned it that way. It was planned. But a final battle up against Pirates. Let's see what we can do. Most certainly hanging on to the innovative blacksmith in this match. I think we'll get rid of everything else, though. I'd like to find, even if it's just a means of finding a one-coster to throw in front of a cheap turn 1 play. We're just in this one for the strategy, I call it, is just don't lose until you win, right? And so if we're able to get the blacksmith on board and start getting some heal, we get the mender on board, start getting some heal, we'll be fine. If we get this into turn 10, turn 11, we should most certainly be winning the game in that space. And so, just don't lose until you win. It's kind of the standard strategy here. Hopefully, looking to probably play the Bellows Breath on turn 4. Opponent most certainly going to want to go wide here. All depends on what they got, though. If they just drop a Misfortune, then I feel like we're in really tip-top shape.
I'm one of the good guys.
Cool.
But not that good.
This is interesting. For this block, I think we want the Pana Pain, but the quick attack one is quite nice on the following turn, so if we want to be making attacks with our Combat Cook. But happily trade with Misfortune. I was a little worried about Pirouette right there, but Pirouette didn't make an appearance either. Now maybe we'll find the quick attack equipment for our Combat Cook. The second blacksmith, though. Pot full of pain. We won't be attacking here. This is a fantastic place to just stop. Start getting our heals back online and everything. The other strategy you kind of run into in these spots is you have to ask yourself, if we come in and trade, can opponent actually refill their board? Which is a pretty reasonable thing for opponent to be able to do here. So I think we're fine to just Bellows Breath now. I'm a little upset. Like, I was thinking last turn if we want to put the Tough onto our unit so it doesn't take the damage from Bellows Breath. But I think it's still going to be reasonably safe here. Oh, he knocks in Fervor's face. Not on the unit. Huh. Okay. So we got to kill most of this stuff. Still got some heal. I like it.
Hello, new best friend.
This one has to be done, right? He's only got one card in hand. Even if that one card is like Eye of Nagakoboros, I'm still feeling pretty exceptional about this space. And we did it. We won. GG. Victory unlocked for Team Bust. We can pull this up, talk about it a little bit more. And so it's a very interesting deck, very powerful, right? We had a pretty good run at it here. This is one of those decks to where with all of the heal and everything, it tends to be pretty good against aggro. The places it starts to kind of fall apart is if you're playing against something like Nasus Thresh or Nasus Kindred, to where they're able to really kind of focus in on your singular big unit. It also runs into a little bit of problems with stuff like Rise for the same things, as to where if we're going to have 20 stats or 20 attack power on the board, if we have 4 units with 5 attack, that's much more challenging to stop in terms of damage prevention. Like if you're going to play a concussive palm, you hit one of the 4s and take 12 damage. But if we have 2 10 attack units, you play your concussive palm, you only take 10. And then if you have double stuns or double interactivity, you can just completely negate our turn, to where with the width board we were talking about, you actually get to chunk in damage. And so if you're up against decks that have a lot of just kind of that single target removal, they can be problematic. And so Rise is a problem and the like. But if you're looking to battle against the aggro end of the spectrum, you're still quite good. If you're up against the mid-rangey decks, you're still quite good. You have a lot of game against the Seraphine deck, and so that's pretty nice there as well. It's just some of those top-end control decks, as we like to say, if we're playing a slow game and then they can just play it a little bit slower, we're not fast enough to overcome their slow strategy. And so the games are still winnable, right? You can have those draws like we had against Ezreal, to where or against Yasuo, to where they just don't put enough stuff on the board and we actually have a bunch of 2-drops and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're definitely looking for the meta to fall more mid-rangey or more aggro heavy, or to be in a space to where you can ideally just ban out your opponent's Rise deck or something, and then be strong against the remainder of their decks. And so, again, very powerful, very similar to the Jax Ornn deck, but it has a lot of different angles to it. A lot of those interesting aspects to where you're able to generate rallies with the Ranger Knight Defectors, or if you're able to put an Overwhelm down and then start to Cataclysm with your Overwhelms and stuff. Very interesting and powerful abilities there. Loading up the Darkened Spears is a way to Cataclysm. We pulled that one off multiple times across the event here. Just very powerful interactions that you get out of this deck, to where it's a kind of different angle of attack that you see out of Jax Ornn. And so very interesting and powerful stuff. And so good games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.